Hey everybody, Cinephile Mike is here, and it is day 57 of Oscar Rewind, my bi-weekly series of video commentary that reflect the work of this past year's Oscar nominees and winners. I'm digging deep into those IMDb profiles, and my hope is that you will discover a new, older favorite, or maybe revisit something you haven't seen in a while. As always, I'll be discussing the recent Oscar connection, awards history for the film, box office information, critical response, and as always, these reviews are spoiler-free. Now, before we jump in, do me a favor, click that subscribe button, because you definitely don't want to miss any of the goodness coming your way here on the channel. So, we're starting to wrap up Visuals Month, and these next three are taking a look at editing. Because, always critical, a bad edit can make a bad watch. First up, Altitude Film Entertainment's Lady Macbeth. Written by Alice Birch from Nikolai Leskov's novel Lady Macbeth of Mtsensk District, and directed by William Oldroyd, the film was released throughout the spring and summer of 2017 after its debut at the 2016 Toronto International Film Festival. The film made a small showing of $1,129,408 domestically and an additional $4,214,224 internationally, giving it a worldwide take of $5,343,632. However, while this seems small, the reported budget for the film was around $700,000, so not a bad return on investment. Especially, and if I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here, this was the film that really introduced a little bit more of a mainstream audience to the incredible Florence Pugh. I'm not biased. I remember seeing this movie in theaters and I said, we're going to see her again. And sure as heck, haven't we? Critically, Lady Macbeth was well received with an 89% critical rating from 198 reviews and a 71% popcorn meter culled from over 5,000 audience ratings. Award season-wise, it capped its run with 2 BAFTA nods for the team of director Oldroyd, writer Birch, and producer Fodla Cronin O'Reilly for Outstanding Debut by a British Writer, Director, or Producer, and also Outstanding British Film of the Year. Oldroyd was nominated for the First Time Director Award by the Directors Guild of America and Best International Film at the Independent Spirit Awards. Additionally, it was named one of the top 10 independent films of the year by the National Board of Review and took home awards from several other guilds, award shows, and festivals around the world. Most promising was its showing at the British Independent Film Awards with a whopping 15 nominations. Of these, the nods were for Best British Independent Film, Best Director, Best Supporting Actress for Naomi Ackie, a Most Promising Newcomer for Cosmo Jarvis, Birch for Best Debut Screenwriter, Oldroyd for the Douglas Hickox Award, Cyan Wilson for Best Makeup and Hair, Jacqueline Abrahams for Best Production Design, Best Casting for Shaheen Bagh, and O'Reilly was nominated for Breakthrough Producer. The other 5 nods resulted in wins, which were Birch for Best Screenplay, Most Promising New Actor for Newcomer went to Ackie, Best Cinematography for Ari Wegner, Best Costume Design for Holly Waddington, and its 5th win was Best Actress for Florence Pugh. Now, while I have not named him above because his work wasn't recognized for Lady Macbeth, the editor of this film, the reason it's here, Nick Emerson, if that name sounds familiar, this past award season, Emerson received 3 wins and 23 additional nominations, including 1 Oscar nomination for editing the political and religious thriller Conclave. No stranger to moving period pieces along, his resume also includes recent period thriller Eileen, the Bronte adaptation of Emma starring Anya Taylor-Joy, and a 2021 TV adaptation of Romeo and Juliet that was led by Josh O'Connor and Jessie Buckley. So what's this film about? Well, Lady Macbeth, set in 1865, introduces us to Katherine, played by Pugh, a young woman who is contracted into a marriage with an older gentleman, Alexander Lester, played by Paul Hilton. And to say this marriage is loveless is an understatement. He refuses to lie with her, although he does take some carnal delight in her. And thanks to an overbearing father-in-law, Boris, played by Christopher Fairbank, who owns the home that they live in and also lives with them. They live in the middle of the English countryside of rural Northumberland, and is all too happy, Boris, to put these stern rules upon Katherine, which include satisfy your husband, perform your wifely duties, and remain in the house at all times, because the cold air will not do well for you. You need to stay healthy, so just stay inside the house, read a book, be content. We see where this is going, right? This is not necessarily the life that Katherine wants. And then, her only real company is her maid Anna, played by Naomi Ackie. And however, we get to this point where after some time, both Boris and Alexander are called away from the manor, so Katherine starts to get a little bit of freedom. Now, through a series of not-so-pleasant events, her paths will cross with Sebastian, played by Cosmo Jarvis, a young man who works the land. And although their first encounter is very tense, and some of the next times they see each other, there's a little bit of fraughtness, you can kind of see where we're going with this. We've seen this plot element before. The passion is undeniable, and Katherine begins to take up with Sebastian, although clearly not without its risks. Now, as she takes up with him, she will learn that not all people are as forthright as they seem, and trust really gets called into question as she tries to keep her affair secret, though this is not as easy as she might like it to be, and, characters' histories and pasts will become known, and not just hers, especially when about halfway through we get a knock on the door and we meet a woman named Agnes, played by Golda Rochevelle, who shows up on Katherine's doorstep with a young boy named Teddy, played by Anton Palmer. Suffice it to say, not everyone may make it out alive at the end. Here's what I'm going to say. This film is very short. It's a brisk 89 minutes, and within that, I have to really give my kudos to Alice Birch. This screenplay delivers a very tight story that doesn't cheat any of its characters or sacrifice the heart of this story. It's a gripping period drama that almost seems like it's the unpublished manuscript of a Bronte sister. Florence Pugh, in one of her first film performances, is a force of nature, and it's easy to see how she has had the career that she's had. In this film, she often has times to shine in dialogue-free scenes, communicating with just as much as a stare. I mean, if you take a look at this poster, you can see it, there, in the eyes. Whoa, her screen presence is electrifying as she brings you in and creates a character that is both sympathetic, you feel for her, but also deplorable when you see some of the acts that she engages in. Like her character's namesake, and let me be clear, that's really the only correlation between, this film and the classic Shakespeare character, but she will screw her courage to the sticking place and do what needs to be done. So let me just say, if you've been avoiding this because you're like, I'm not a big Shakespeare fan, this is not a Shakespeare film at all. Like I said, all it shares in common with the classic is a very powerful character and the title. In their supporting roles, I have to say, Naomi Ackie, this is her feature film debut. We've loved her in films like Blink Twice and some of the more recent work she's done. She plays a very stoic Anna who is sometimes relegated to a silent servant, but she delivers a physical performance at times that truly is captivating and also sympathetic. Cosmo Jarvis, as her lover, is, both tender and intense. He's forced to really straddle some massively emotional touchstones as he goes on this journey. Not so easy for him. And, in addition to these powerful performances, visually, the film is stunning. All of the design elements work. Most notably, Holly Waddington, an Oscar winner for the gorgeous costumes in Poor Things, captures the Victorian era here perfectly. Pugh's large, voluminous dresses, the tight corsets, they're equally matched to the stiff suits that, her husband and her father-in-law are wearing. Then we have these more earthly lived-in tones for Anna and for Sebastian, with a sparse decor and, set in this vast countryside. Production designer Jacqueline Abrahams and art director Talia Eccleston, this vast space they put really mirrors this emptiness that Katherine is feeling in her soul, this less than desirable circumstance. So all of the design elements work really well. And Emerson, in his editing work, I would be remiss if I didn't discuss it a little bit. He captures, Ari Wegner's cinematography mixes both these wide shots of the environment that we're in that shows this emptiness, and then we have these really powerful, intimate close-ups of, the aforementioned intense looks by some of the performers. And all of this moves the narrative along. And when the film ends, some people may feel a little dissatisfied by how it ends, but we went on this journey, and there is a button to it. And one almost wonders what happens after those credits roll. In all, Lady Macbeth is a 4-star film that needs to be seen, especially if you are a Florence Pugh fan. This early work of hers more than cemented her leading lady presence. I believe she will have a long-standing career, and hey, it seems that they're anchoring the MCU around her, and I am on board for that. If you would like to catch Lady Macbeth, it is currently streaming for free on Tubi with ads, or you can rent or purchase digital or physical copies from online retailers. And that's where I'm going to leave it today. We have a couple more to wrap as we go through Visual Month. As always, if you like what you heard here, please click that button, subscribe to the channel, like and share the video, spread the word. You can follow me, Cinephile Mike, on all social media platforms and on Letterboxd, and find lots of great additional cinematic goodness on my website, cinephilemike.com. All right, happy watching, everyone, and until next time, this is Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.